All right, we're live.
I'm going to call the regular meeting to order. It is now 6 o'clock. Requirements of the Sunshine Law have been met. This meeting was advertised in Burlington County Times on January 6, 2023. Electronic notice was given to NJC 5:39-1.5. We will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence. Roll call.
Committeewoman Berkeley.
Present.
Committeeman Carr. Committeewoman Mungo.
Here.
Mayor Henley.
Present.
Committeewoman Wright.
Workshop 2023 Annual Municipal Budget Recap. We need to open.
Okay, so I apologize. We were trying to get this PowerPoint to work with the remote, but now I understand why we're here better after our PowerPoint presentation morning. So tonight is the proposed budget recap. So I'm going to recap parts of the budget that we talked about at the last meeting, and then at the end I will open it up for questions from the committee. So on tonight's agenda, we're just going to go over the expenditures, revenues, 2023 capital, and property tax levy. Our timeline still stands. We're going to have the last budget workshop this evening, starting at 6 p.m. We have a planned introduction of March 21st. That will occur during the regular meeting, and then the public comment and adoption on April 18th at the regular meeting. So just to go over the highlights that we had in the last presentation, our proposed budget is $13,929,527. Our 2022 adopted budget was closed at $13,088,629. The overall increase for 2022 is about $840,898. We do have some unexpended funds from 2022 that added to our surplus, which was $691,000 roughly. And some of the major areas for the 2023 increase were the healthcare costs that rose to 21%, 41% increase in workers' compensation insurance, and 56% increase in fuel costs. So our revenues account for about $5,054,996. We have $1,995,000 in surplus and a $310,000 increase in surplus over 2022. And count that for really, really good budget management last year. Most of our revenues do come from construction fees, EMS fees, court fees, and federal and state aid and funding. Once again, presenting the capital, I will state for the record that we did change this just slightly. It does not increase or decrease the dollar amount, but we moved a few numbers around to account for the bulletproof vest radar antenna and the interceptors for the police department. We just kind of moved funds around to make it work. We did take a little bit, did we take anything from those? Roads. Okay, so it was just the line items were adjusted in the police department. Everything else remains the same. Okay. So again, I will state that right now with a healthy budget, using 75% of our surplus and available revenues, we are looking at a local tax rate of 0.746, which is an increase of 0.56 cents. The average residential taxpayer will see a $120 increase over the course of a year. But keep in mind, for our calculation purposes, every penny is roughly $119,000. So when we're trying to adjust that tax rate, we have to account for at least $119,000 to reduce it by a penny. So at the last budget presentation, there were some questions, or rather not even the presentation, but in the last meeting, there were some questions regarding a full master plan review and a possible overhaul to the fire department. to add those to the budget, these are the rough numbers that I've received from the planner and also the fire department, if you wanted to add that to the proposed budget. Now, keep in mind, that's roughly at the highest amount, $170,000. Remember that 1 penny equals $119,000. So the more you increase, the more your tax rate is going to increase. What I'm going to offer you right now, due to this information, is that when we bonded last year, the investment houses have to supply what's called a premium to basically buy the ability to buy the bonds to win the bid. So we have $317,000 available to us to use just to this one time this year to apply into our revenues, which can help bring that tax rate down. So when you're looking at the budget and you want to apply this one-time reduction, keep in mind 1 penny is $119,000. So we can roughly estimate that by applying this premium, we can bring that tax rate down by 2 cents at the very least. So now, with all of the information that I've provided you with the last 2 presentations, I want you to just keep in mind that if we reduce the tax rate by applying more revenues, that's more revenue we're going to have to make up next year. So where it stands with the proposed tax rate from the auditor, we are looking at a very healthy, replenishing budget for next year. We won't put ourselves in any bad position, and the township won't have to struggle to make up any lost revenue if we apply it from other sources. What questions do you have?
I have a question. So, are we expecting, like with the construction that we have going on, do we expect more fees for the upcoming year?
So,
Do we
we
budget
can't
for that?
anticipate that in 2023's budget because we don't have it, so that would be for 2024's budget. So we would actually have an increase in construction fees for 2024 that we could utilize as a revenue, but we'll also have a new valuation of construction in this township, which helps bring the value of the houses or the value of the real estate higher next year. It's unfortunate we can't do it this year because right now it's in progress. It has to be pretty much done for us to be able to recognize that. And next year we can.
And now, do we see an increase in court fees from last year to this year? Just because last year we were doing a lot of Zoom for court fees and the court, and now we're not, right? So, or do we expect even more next year that we just can't realize?
I would say that it would be safe to anticipate court fees to be higher in next year's budget than it would be now. But mainly our court fees, they're not down because of no ability to have the meetings in person. They're down because of bail. So the way that we collect these fees, we're just not able to collect them like we used to be able to collect them in the past. So you're not getting as much revenue from the court, and that's overall in the state of New Jersey, including the South Law.
Do we know how much we're down in court fees? Because that used to be, court fees used to be kind of a character class, if I'm not mistaken, so well.
I do have that information. I don't have it with me tonight.
No.
Following up on that question, which is good, do we know what percentage of the court fees we keep and what we have to give to the state?
I don't specifically know that answer. I just know that it's a very low amount. For example, if the traffic is paying $75, the tax is a very low amount, maybe it's 5%. Don't quote me on the exact number, but it's a very low amount.
But I know we don't get to keep everything we bring in.
The ordinances are 100% brought back to the township. That's the only thing that 100% comes back to the township ordinance violations.
And we have a hefty credit card fee we have to pay because they usually pay by credit card, right?
Yeah, so my understanding with that is the court was trying to facilitate getting more money, and, with the problems with people bouncing checks and coming back to the township, the idea of the credit card system is a great idea. The problem is that they do have that fee. But I think, if you do the risk versus the need with it, I think that, the check system wasn't working as well as the town were actually now.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure.
You're talking about the fee from the merchant service, like the 2% fee or whatever?
Exactly, whatever percentage of the credit card was on that.
So can we charge the fee to the person who decides to use their card? Or I guess we want them to use their card because then we don't want to take the check.
I don't have the knowledge of how that works.
I asked that question, we cannot charge them.
How come everybody else can be charged?
I know. State of New Jersey.
No, but everybody else can stay getting charged, right? I just paid one of them. Not a ticket, no. Well, I did just pay.
And we can charge them if they pay their taxes by credit card. But apparently the court can't.
I'll look at that and get back to you. Are you talking about the
Service.
The service.
payments paid through New Jersey Courts Online or through
Even if it's window.
that paid window?
Because what happens is with the merchant service, they're charging a higher rate, so then businesses started charging a certain percentage to cover that higher rate. That's why you'll see some businesses charging 2%, or if you don't spend a certain amount of money, then they're gonna charge X, Y, Z, right? So, I mean, it's a probability that we can do that. I mean, obviously, what we can say is that we don't accept checks, or we accept cashier's checks. So they can make fake cashier's checks too, but you can accept cashier's checks and we can accept the merchant service part of it. And depending on the amount of merchant service we do, we may not even have to pay the fee.
It's all regulated through the administrative office report, it's not separate than paying taxes or anything. So that's why I went specifically into what the AFC regulations are, changing out the cost.
Or just, an idea to try to save a little bit.
At the last meeting, when you gave the presentation, the tax rate increase would be like 8.11%. If we could lower that by 2% with this 31,700, it's still 6.11%. How much of that is above I know we can only raise taxes 2% plus whatever the bond is that we pay. How much is the bond going to be? Is that really like 6% of our budget?
It's not just the bond that you're referring to. So I gave you information from our auditor in the last presentation. On one of the summary pages, it has the list of exclusions outside of that 2% cap. So in the calculation, it has the 2% cap of tax levy. On top of that, it has the other exclusions that are listed below it, and that's what's adding up to that extra percent. We are well within our allowance for that tax levy. That's a non-issue for this town.
But I thought the cap was how much we spent, not how much we're raising in taxes. When I had talked to you, we could have a vote and raise the expenses by 3.5%, but we had to keep within the 2% of raising the taxes. So I'm still not clear on the difference of that.
So the tax levy is 2%, but outside of that tax levy, there are exclusions that make it up to 8%. And those exclusions are listed in the paperwork that I gave you from the auditor at the last presentation.
Okay.
Do you have that with you?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just going by our private conversation we had before the meeting last time. The debt service payment is the principal plus interest is $2,029,700 and some. The principal's $880,000, but the interest is $269,746. I'm very concerned that we pay some off and then we turn around and we keep borrowing more. My goal would be to try to reduce the debt as much as possible. We could have used that $269,000 for other things if we could get rid of our debt. I just think that we can't pay off $880,000 and then turn around and take $415,000 in debt for this year. It just seems like you're going 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And my goal would be to try to only spend in the budget what we need and try to cut down on that debt service by more. And doing that, I look at some of the things in the budget, and seriously, last year we approved $30,000 for the carpet, and it turned out to be almost $100,000. And now we're doing the downstairs. And I was told it was downstairs minus the court, or does that include the court building? I can't imagine that if the upstairs was $100,000 and the downstairs plus the police department is only going to be less than about the same amount. And I just think that it could wait another year until we get our budget more unstable. We can pay more for our bills, And I don't think carpet is as a requirement as police and fire, being able to come and meet the needs of the people and the residents. I think that we should use the rest of the ARPA funds for any capital improvements, so we're also not putting that in the budget and not borrowing things. And I'll talk about that later during the meeting, but we have, in meeting, want to approve 2 cars for construction. One for the construction officer and one for the person who is an inspector. We've never had an inspector car before. It's $37,000. We pay them a good salary, and I just don't think that's a necessity when we have trial with the budget. Thank you, Chris, for giving me the answers to your questions. I do think, though, the maintenance for vehicles could come down. We have new police cars. We have new construction cars. We're going to have new public works cars. We have new fire cars and a fire truck, and we still are putting out the same amount for vehicle maintenance. I think if we need to cut things, that can cut, because I wouldn't think a new car, new truck, whatever, would need the maintenance of something that has 90 or 100,000 miles. Land Development Board Secretary, the salary is approximately $50 a month. I happen to know that there are many, many hours outside of the regular workday that the secretary has and have in the past put in. That person is responsible to do all the stuff to get ready for the Land Development Board, and then all the stuff for after it, all the documents, all the interfacing with the applicants, and this has not been raised in 25 years.
Ms. Berkeley?
Yes.
500 a month, not 50.
Excuse me?
It's 500 a month, not 50.
I apologize. Still, $500 a month is not a lot. $100.
For 1 meeting a month.
No, for 1 meeting a month and all the work that goes into it, and it has not been increased in 25 years. I don't know anybody here would want to have a job that did not get a pay increase in 25 years. I think we deserve to sit down with the person, find out how many hours they put into it. You're right, it's not 50, it's 500, but I still don't think that's a lot of money for almost a part-time job like this. We cut the zoning maps from 25,000 down to 500, and this year we are doing a zoning changes, and I think that we need zoning maps. I don't know why this was cut to 500. Even in the ordinance that we're passing tonight, we're changing zones. I think that should be increased. I had asked you about the JIF premiums going up to 42%. You said you would look at that. Did you find out if they're actually going up 42%?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I had asked you if the premiums were going up 42% for JIF. Did you find out if they actually are going up 42%?
It is increasing. Those are the numbers that we get direct from JIF.
Okay. Construction, why is there a $6,000 charge for internet for construction? Is that the internet for everyone? It just happens to be in the construction budget?
Are you speaking about a line item, or are you speaking about a bill list?
A line item. All these are line items.
That's new computers.
It says internet.
Okay. There's nothing in it.
Under Public Works, I'm sorry, not Public Works. Insurance. Police Department. Fire. Public Works. Must be construction, not Public Works. One of them had $6,000. It must have been construction.
Page 2, construction operating expenses. Last line says internet.
$6,000. Thank you.
Computers?
No, it didn't say computers. It said internet.
There's nothing under internet.
I saw computers for $7,000. in what we got last time. Yeah, new computers, $750, internet, $6,000.
No,
Line it up with the paper.
line it up, new computers, $6,000,
New computers,
straight across, $6,000.
$6,000. Okay.
Internet, no.
$6,000 for... $6,000? How many computers?
So the software maintenance line item, which is a few line items above that, is for our IT professionals. Anything that is a computer or computer technology cost comes out of that new computers line item, so that's why it's budgeted for $6,000. And our IT professional has asked us to budget for 2 new computers because a lot of our hard drives are failing, and we're just not able to access the systems as quickly and efficiently as we had before. Does anybody need a new copy of the line item? I have extra copies. I gave you a full packet.
Okay.
These numbers have...
It's in there. Okay, thank you. Got it. Well, where did I see that the IT person was $25,000 a year then?
Under software maintenance, construction official LD.
Okay, so software maintenance is that, and then there's $6,000 for computers.
And that could be any related IT costs. It wouldn't just be a single PC. It could be anything that's technologically related to computers that could be pulled out of that line item.
Still expensive.
So I will disclose that when I create this spreadsheet, and I said this at the last meeting, I get a report from our CFO that gives me a very detailed expense for every line item that we have. And it shows me a trend over the last 4 years respectively of how numbers are either increasing or decreasing. And this is after the first of the year where we've done our reappropriation and pulled from different line items. So I'm able to see where we need to increase line items to accommodate for the upcoming year. A lot of this is a guessing game. A lot of this is going to be inflation that we're seeing across the board in every single department for every single item that we purchase. These line items were not padded exponentially. We're given enough to make sure that we have enough to operate and provide the level of service that the residents are used to being provided. There's nothing additional that really we could nickel and dime to make up any kind of a difference that you're looking for to apply to the debt service. You might be looking at maybe a couple of thousand, maybe, if we nickel and dime everything. But if you want to cut these line items, obviously that's your decision. I can't stand in your way. You guys make these decisions. But just understand that when you cut back on these line items, you're going to cut back on the services that we're able to provide.
Well, I find it interesting that the police and fire and court have not increased their line item for supplies. And actually, I think that that's surprising for the fire department with all the ambulance supplies they use, especially when we do so much. So we do 72% of our calls are ambulance, and half of them are not even in our area. And I was surprised that they did not increase their supplies at all.
And federal aid. They also receive grants and federal aid, which account for a lot of the revenue that they're using to purchase those supplies.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they just got a grant, didn't they, the $33,000?
But wasn't that for a special thing for stretchers?
That's recent.
But it balances our budget of not having to purchase it ourselves.
Correct.
Okay, did we also get an actual increase to water and sewer?
Whatever is in the line item for the utilities is what I was provided by the CFO. I believe that we get those numbers in advance of the year, and it's a projected amount for what they're going to charge for the rest of the year.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, if we are under budget, then we kind of carry it over, right? Like what you projected
Absolutely
this year.
carries over.
And secondly, about the cars, Committeewoman Berkeley brought up a point. If I'm not mistaken, one of them belongs to the recreation director who was driving the minivan.
So the recreation minivan is
Dead.
probably on its last leg. We need to replace that vehicle. So the plan, which I guess I can talk about now, the plan is to purchase 2 new vehicles for the construction department. One is for the CO. So turn the vehicle over to the CO, and then take the CO's current vehicle and transfer it to the recreation department. We have several inspectors that work for us that utilize their own vehicles when driving to construction sites. So the plan is to have the vehicle on standby for when the inspectors arrive, and this is 5 days a week that we have these inspectors coming to this building. They can utilize this vehicle to drive onto construction sites, perform the work that needs to be performed, come back, pick up their own vehicle, and go home.
Do we feel like it causes a safety risk for them to take their own vehicle?
It absolutely does, because it's on their insurance, it's on their, it's damages to their vehicle, it's not damages to township property at that point.
And if their vehicle is damaged, do we have to pay for the damages?
Yes, in going to our insurance, they're using their.
The insurance just went up 40-something%.
Yes, so it would be comparable to those two increases, yes.
Has that ever happened?
I do, to my knowledge, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that question if it has or hasn't. It hasn't while I've been here, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened before.
I just think it just is nice for someone to have this, but I just don't think when we're in a budget crunch and people have said we're losing money, we don't have enough money, that is not a necessity. If I had a choice between buying that and another police car, I would buy the police car. I don't mean to put you on the line, Chief, but you're important.
Keep in mind that these funds are coming from federal grant funds, it's not part of the budget.
But if the federal grant funds can use, as I told Chris, instead of that $37,000 for an inspector car, we could use some of Chris's needs for capital. There, we wouldn't have to borrow then that when it comes to capital. We could cut our debt,
By how much?
$37,000.
What's the debt?
It's the capital.
Right. What's the total debt we're cutting by 37,000?
The total debt that we will have to borrow this year to do what we want to do is $415,000.
I'm sorry, where are you getting that number from?
The budget plus the fire truck is, the budget capital plus fire truck down payment is $117,000. The total capital request is $532,000, so the difference is $415,000.
I'm not matching the number, I don't know where you're getting that.
Say your number one more time, Nancy.
I added all the capital requests plus the fire truck, and that is $532,000. The budget capital that we want to put toward, and that includes the fire truck and the capital line item, is $117,000. So the difference is $415,000 that we would have to borrow to do all the capital plans.
What's the number that you have, Lindy, for the capital?
So the number that I have in the capital for the total is $1,368,130. The down payment, 5% is $68,406.
But that doesn't include the fire truck emergency.
That's already been earmarked, that's not part of this budget.
On the last page,
$1.3 million, 600, go, sir.
the current debt is that $5 million that we did last year minus what we're paying off this year.
Well, I apologize. I'm talking about the number we're talking about.
Okay.
It's $1,368,130.
5% down payment, you have to have $68,406.
We're talking about the 37,000 from that.
I don't know what the 37,000 is that she's referring to.
The vehicle, the extra.
We took the vehicle.
Oh, that's not coming, that's not capital. You're in two different
Right,
parts.
right.
No, but if we don't do that, we could take the capital and use the funds, the government funds, to pay for that. So that would take away from the budget.
Does anyone have any other questions?
That's my questions, thank you.
So I am going to request that you all deliberate and tell me how you'd like to move forward by Wednesday of next week so that I can have all the information over to the auditor so that we can prepare the instruction for the budget so that we have it for the 21st, which follows our budget timeline. So I'll be checking in with you, just to make sure that there's no additional questions to anything. I can provide you with what the tax rate will look like when I make the application
The full master plan review will be what, $150,000? So that would cause another tax increase?
So every $119,000 that you add to your budget is a penny increase.
Wendy, could you share with them what you shared with me today about the surplus?
What's that?
That originally last week, we were going to put 100% of the surplus towards the budget, and the auditor recommended only putting 75% of the surplus, so that means 25% of the surplus we now don't have to put towards the income of the budget. I was just wondering how much that would be, because either we have to lower taxes by that amount or find extra ways of getting that money.
So by having 25% surplus available, it's like having 25% of that as cash. If something happens to this municipality, we have cash flow. If you apply 100% of your surplus, you could be in a very, very bad spot if something happens.
I understand that, and that's not my question. My question is, when you originally figured out the numbers, it included giving 100% of the surplus, and even last time I said,
I corrected myself. I thought we were using 100%, we are not. It is using 75% and 25% cash flow.
okay, so that was not the same as last time.
Correct. That wasn't even introduced last time, that wasn't an email that you had sent me.
Okay, thank you.
What cash surplus did we have last year?
We utilized 77%.
So we're going the other way, which is good.
This budget that I prepared for you this time, not only did we come in under cash spend, so we have the power to spend more money, but we're not. We're under that cap limit. We have a healthy budget that's going to replenish surplus. We have a one-time surplus premium that we can apply to bring that down by at least 2 cents. If we take anything more from the revenues that we have, we may not be able to replenish that next year.
Right.
And this is the first year that I can honestly say since I've been here, that I've been comfortable presenting this budget to you. Because I remember in years past, I said to you guys, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
You're stuck. This is how it is. But this is a very comfortable budget. This puts us in a very good position going forward. And I will add that we are not deferring any school taxes this time around. So we have a lot of power in this budget. It's very strong. It's very healthy. If you start taking away from these revenues, it's not going to be strong. And we will be looking at issues next year if we cannot replenish those revenues. Any other questions?
I'm good.
It is now 6:33. Would you like to take a brief break before we have the rest of the meeting? We do have swearing in.
Yes. Anybody else agree?
That's
I got
fine.
a quick question. Am I allowed to ask Committee Woman for a quick question? When we talk about, because when we talk about increasing the land development secretary, what number were you looking at?
If we're giving everyone a 2% raise, give her a 2% raise.
On $6,000?
Yeah. I mean, it's not much, but whatever. I just think 25 years is a long time to go without increasing it. I know she had told me a long time ago she comes in at 6 o'clock to spend an extra hour a day on land development.
So I would say
Every day
this.
or just that?
I would say this. If I don't know that, if we decide to give her a raise, I don't know that that's $120 a year, $10 a month. I don't know that. I think that. I mean, no disrespect. I think that's a bit of an insult. Like if we're going to give her a raise,
Give her a raise.
give her $1,000 or something like that.
Right.
If we can afford that.
Sure, because 2% on someone who's making $110,000 a year is a lot more than someone making $36,000 a year.
2%. I mean, I think 2% is a decent.
I was just thinking some money, whatever.
No, I
we can
wanted to hear
afford.
what you thought, because I didn't want to say something that you, I
Oh.
mean, it was your idea.
I appreciate it.
That's it. Yeah, just the motion.
The motion is second to exit the workshop.
We have a motion to exit workshop.
So moved.
Second.
Yep. All here?
Aye. Great time.
Yeah.
Okay, we're live.
Hello, we're about to go back and start meeting. Do we have a motion to go back into our meeting?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Your presentation, oath of office for Officer Eric Sweeney.
That's great. I love the timer.
I, Eric Sweeney, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance, to the same, and to the governments established in the United States, and to the governments established in the United States, and in this state, under the authority of the people, that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all duties of patrolman, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations. We're just gonna have you, Eric. Yep. You sign, wait, one second. Yeah, you're gonna sign the bottom one, and on both, and then you're gonna sign the top.
That's all right.
Thank you.
We will now open meeting to public comment, agenda items only. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comments only. It is not intended as a question and answer period. If you would like a response, please leave your contact information on the podium so we can respond appropriately. Thank you.
Christina Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. I looked at the agenda with the ordinances, and I just want to say thank you for taking out Section 3 and changing it and listening to everybody last week. We really appreciate it.
Hello, I'm Eileen Kariskin, 4 Oak Tree Court, West Hampton. I would like to talk a little bit about the zoning plan again. I had an opportunity to go through the old vision plan from, I guess it's 2009, 2011, somewhere in there. And I was a little concerned because what we kind of talked about back then were a bunch of goals, and there were 7-fold goals in this vision plan, and I'll read them to you. The first was to continue to preserve the township's rural character through open space, farmland preservation, and recreation spaces in concert with the county and other agencies. The second was to promote a balance between potential future development and the quality of life for the residents. The third was to protect historic resources through the local designation and recognition. The fourth, create a sustainable community that embraces green technology and mitigates environmental impacts. 6, I'm skipping over 5 because I'm going to go back to that. 6 was to provide transportation choices, including bicycle paths, pedestrian networks, and public transportation. And I got to tell you, I'm a big bicyclist. I have not seen any bicycle paths. You could kill yourself on Wood Lane Road. Provide quality housing choices with the community in mind to satisfy existing residences and welcome new neighbors. Now, go back to 5. 5 is interesting. It says, create a recognizable identity for West Hampton that sets it apart from the surrounding towns, presents a positive impression to visitors and residents, and establishes a sense of place. And there are 2 points to that. Create a center of West Hampton through a commercial zone, dedicated community space, or neighborhood creation along West Hampton Boulevard. For those that don't know, West Hampton Boulevard is considered Route 541. And then to emphasize context-sensitive aesthetics and high-quality design in all new construction and renovations. Now, I took a look at some of the zoning that's being proposed there, and I see this agri-hood mixed-use district being proposed. And when I read the definition of agri-hood mixed use, it seems that anything goes. You can have residential, you can have high density, you can have a warehouse up to 250,000 square feet, that's 45 feet high. In the middle of all this, we've got 10 acres of farmland in the center. I mean, the whole thing just seems nutty to me. Anyway, currently, there are over 20 large warehouses providing 4.6 million square feet with an additional of warehouse space, with an additional 830,000 square feet under construction. That's almost 5.5 million square feet in the township. That's only 12 square miles long, big, whatever you want to call it. At this point, I feel strongly that we need a moratorium to be placed on the building of all our warehouses. Thank you.
We will now close the public, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Shanti Williams. I live at 6 Treetop Lane, up off Burrs Road. I want to speak to the warehousing that is being proposed as well, but more from a personal stance from myself and other people in the township that I have, spoken with. A big part of the allure of the West Hampton area was the open spaces and country feeling of the area. So much of the eastern seaboard is industrialized and monetized that it's refreshing to live in an area of open green spaces. Industrial warehouses bring pollution, traffic noise, heat sinks, and higher property values with no quality of life improvement for the residents and the land around it. I am against warehousing anywhere in the township of West Hampton and hope that the township committee decides to keep West Hampton as it is and allow its residents to continue to enjoy the benefits of the area without gross monetization of open land. Thank you.
Ron Riskin for Oak Tree Court, West Hampton.
Sir, if I could just remind everybody that I should have made an announcement before I make a comment, but there is a 3-minute limit to comments. Make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak. Keep time, and if we get 3 minutes, then I'll ask you to wrap up.
Use the microphone, too.
Yes.
First thing I want to say is that the warehousings of any type should be specifically prohibited in Zone OR1. Very strongly recommend that. Otherwise, that property, which is along 541 on both sides of it, is just going to be completely developed. There won't be any open spaces left. Our vision plan calls for preservation of farmland. I don't see that occurring along that area. It seems like we're trying to develop that, where our vision plan actually calls for open space and farmlands to be preserved. And, basically right now, if you compare our vision plan to what might be occurring in the future, I think we're going to be looking more like Route 1 going up to Newark Airport. That's what people are going to remember us as. Thank you.
Anthony Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. For starters, thanks for listening. Second, for the 45-23, the construction vehicles, I know it was mentioned during the previous session, but to have it for now, we're replacing existing vehicles, I believe, if you can confirm that, and it was already mentioned it's coming out of federal money, so it's not really our tax money. And then also for the police force, congratulations, Officer Sweeney. Hopefully we got a good addition, it looks like it. That's it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amber Pinchatore, and I live at 71 Sherwood Lane. Right now, my comment, I understand, is supposed to be limited to the agenda items, but my comment is related to that because it looks like the agenda has changed where you don't know what the agenda items are. So how do we know where to, make our comment? At what point of the meeting should we say it? If it just is very vague and says an ordinance without the wording of what that ordinance is. So I want to be respectful and keep my comments relevant to the part of the meeting where they belong. But when it's not transparent, you don't know where your comment belongs. So maybe we can bring back transparency. Thank you.
Hi, Chrissy Eckert, 120 Main Street, Rancocas. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I just want to let you all know that I think that West Hampton is a great community. I've bought here because I wanted to raise my family. I appreciate the open spaces. I don't appreciate the warehouses, and I think we need to keep that under control. I appreciate growth. I am a small business owner. I appreciate growth, and I appreciate everybody having the opportunity to make money in this world, but I really think we need to keep this warehouse problem in check. Thank you very much.
My name is Linda Ward. I live on 2 Greenwich Drive. My concern with the warehouses, too, is there's so many warehouses surrounding us. What happens when nobody rents them? All those warehouses, nobody's leased them yet, so they're going to sit there. Kids are going to break into them. You're going to end up with rats, and you're going to end up with pigeons living in all these warehouses that are sitting there. They're not even rented out yet, and they keep building more. Plus, with the traffic, I already get tons of people who think it's a speedway between Rancocas and Wood Lane Road. In the mornings, I usually have my windows down because I'll start backing out my driveway, and somebody will come speeding by me. And I even called the police department at one point and said, if you want to pull into my driveway when I'm at work, go right ahead and write tickets all day long, because people think it's a speedway through there. They don't think of it as a residence. And if we get all these warehouses, that traffic is going to be worse. We're going to have people speeding to try to make it to work. We're going to have if you don't think tractor trailers might cut through there, they'll do it every now and then. And then we'll have that. We'll have all the pollution. One of the great things I like is I can walk across the street, go down to the health department building, and you have those little mile markers. You can walk all the way down along the side of the road to where the fire department is. There's a mile and a half for me to walk. And it's great. And if we get all these trucks, it's all going to be pollution. And you can't walk there anymore. And my daughter has asthma. I don't want more pollution. That's one of the great things about where we live. We have all that green space. We have tons of dog walkers. Why not make it a dog park? Why not make it bike trails and keep it open and keep it so the community could use it? Because we were supposed to be West Hampton, not Warehouse Township.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. My name's Susan Baldesser, and I reside at 429 West Country Club Drive. And I'm speaking to the warehouse situation. My question is, who do the West Hampton Township Council Committee represent? Do they represent we residents who pay 95% of the taxes, or do we represent the warehouses? I was looking at this, and it looks like there's 15 pages for the warehouses, and I was worried that they would take precedence over we residents. So this is where the LDB said that we could have warehouses, which seems very nice, and they respected the residents' wishes. Now, I was looking at this, like, why do they have 15 pages of this? And it occurred to me, it says here, whereas the 22 technical appendix to the master plan recommended providing warehouses as a conditionally permitted use in B1 Business District, OR3 Office Research District, and the Industrial District instead of permitted use with recommended conditional use standards, which means right here is where the Virtua Memorial is. And if they start going there, then they set a precedent, and they're going to just keep going. So what this shows is, this is where the LDB said, this is what the ordinance says. So we're not going to have any open space anymore if this goes. So we have to make sure we don't get anything on the virtual. Okay. Thank you.
Did you tell him it got changed? Did we tell him it got changed?
Yeah, it got changed.
Good evening, everyone. Roger Roslowski, 27 Doral Drive. I don't think it's in the township's best interest to help Virtua, who made the decision to purchase that land for the purpose of a medical facility, to turn over that land to be a warehouse. I understand it's their property and they can do with it what they like, but it's not zoned for anything other than what they purchased it for. And we should not give up our rights to see what that land can be developed that benefits the community at large versus helping a major corporation fix a flaw in their purchasing decision. Thank you.
Good evening. Kelly Gegan Scott, 3 Valley Farm Road. I agree with everything about the warehouses. I'm not going to get redundant. I have a couple of questions for Rancocas Village. The apartments and townhouses that are going in and the traffic, we already get a lot of speeding through town. It's very hard to get out of town onto Springside, so we always have to go up to the light on Bridge. So I don't know how or if lights, one-way streets, speed limits.
Sorry. So this portion of the comments, there's 2 comment sections. The first section is just to discuss items that are on the agenda. I think your comments are directed just in general to the committee. That you should bring that up with the second comment section.
Oh, okay. Well, should I finish so I don't have to come back up again? That's really it. I want to know what can be done about the traffic patterns, the speed limits, and just in general, being able to get through the town, you know, and again, the warehouses would just add to that traffic, as is the apartments and townhouses. So, and thank you. Didn't know that.
Now, we'll take a motion to close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes, February 7th, 2023, regular meeting minutes. Do you have a motion?
Motion. No.
Second.
Roll call, discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Longo,
Abstain.
abstain. Wright,
Abstain.
Mayor Henley,
Yes.
motion carries 3-0-2.
February 21st, 2023, regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I would like to make an amendment to those minutes. The minutes as they stand say that my comment at the end, that my proposed amendments would have been, quote, for conditionally permitting warehouses in the medical overlay, and that is the opposite of what I said. Everyone here knows that I did not want to conditionally have the warehouses permitted. My statement from the written statement, which I handed to everyone on the Township Committee and the Deputy Clerk and our attorney says, and you can skip the part that says chapter whatever, but I said delete, which conditionally permits warehouses in the medical campus overlay. And I would like to add the word delete, because it appears that I was for the warehouses and I was not. And people are asking who is the person that added the warehouses to that ordinance, and this minutes make it look like I was the person that added that. So I am going to ask to amend it to add the word delete instead of adding that I wanted it conditionally permitted. And I believe that I can prove that by the statements that I already handed out at the last meeting. I need a second, and I wish you would approve this.
Bob, did you look at that or listen to that?
Yeah. I reviewed the video, and it is clear that Berkeley's intent to delete section 3 of the ordinance. That's what she recommended. The minutes as written clearly state that she's against warehouses. Apologies, I don't have that in front of me, but 2 sentences prior to the one that she referenced do clearly indicate what her intent was.
But it doesn't have the word delete, and it has the word conditionally, which means it could be different than what. So I want the word delete added, please. And Mayor, I gave you a copy of it.
I understand.
Thank you.
Did she say delete?
Yes, she did.
Hand this to Sandy, please.
Can you specify exactly where you want that, to word to add delete?
Because just for them to update the minutes.
It should say delete, and you can add section 3, chapter 250 zoning A4 if you want, delete which conditionally permits warehouses in the medical campus overlay.
Delete
Delete section 3, which conditionally permits warehouses in the medical campus overlay.
I second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So do we table the minutes as are now, or can we,
Oh,
Can I have a motion to adopt as amended?
As amended.
can we have a motion to adopt as amended?
we just did.
We didn't, we approved.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no worries.
Motion.
Second?
Roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Munga. Yes. Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Ordinance. 1-2023, an ordinance of the Township of West Hampton amending and supplementing West Hampton Township Code, Chapter 250, entitled Zoning, and Chapter 196, entitled Site Plan Review, in accordance with the 2022 Master Plan. This is the first reading. We have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for 1-2023, the ordinance of West Hampton Township amending and supplementing Township Code 250.
Second.
Roll call.
Discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion?
Is the planner here? He was supposed to be here tonight to answer any questions.
The planner's not here. He was supposed to be present for the public hearing, which is not scheduled tonight. It will be scheduled after the introduction, 2 weeks after the introduction.
That's because this is a first reading, because we tabled this ordinance last time.
Okay. I think for the benefit of the people here, Otis, do you want to tell the changes, or would you like me to do it?
No, please do.
Okay. The 3 things that were added that people were most upset about, of changing the warehouses of the Virtua, has been taken out. So Virtua will continue to be a medical campus overlay and not one for warehouses. And I will say that you did it because you came and you shared your views. The second part was taken out, that originally it was 1,000 feet from schools or homes, and there was a part that said it could be 500 feet if there was a sound barrier. The 500 feet with sound barrier was taken out, so now it has to be 1,000 feet from homes or schools. The third thing that was taken out was originally in the Land Development Board, they wanted it only 40 feet with 45 feet for those things on top for air conditioning or whatever it's called. And the person who added it last added it from 45 to 55 feet. That extra height has been taken out, and it's back to where the planning board had recommended, only 40 feet high warehouses. My question for the planner was going to be, is there anything that I missed that was added to the Land Development Board that I did not know about? So I'll ask Mr. Carr, who was on the screening of the subcommittee, is there anything else in there that was added that was not from the Land Development Board?
Nothing added. There were some recommendations by the Land Development Board for, I think it was called like soft pavement or reflective pavement, but the science isn't yet developed enough to start requiring certain things, and I believe that's it.
Okay. So we can add that at another time,
Yes.
right? Thank you. So, like I said, I appreciate everyone coming out, because when you come out, the Township Committee does listen to you. So thank you.
Mayor, if I just may add one thing. So the Land Development Board also didn't make any recommendations for the property near the villages, which was...
That's true.
Sorry. Is that better? You guys hear me? All right. So the Land Development Board did not address the property over by the villages that was brought up at a meeting towards the end of last year. The rezoning of that property to not permit warehouses is included in this ordinance as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Barclay.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Mundo. Yes. Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
An ordinance of the Township of West Hampton amending Chapter 232 entitled Handicapped Parking. This is the first reading. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Discussion? Mr. Mayor, we got this afternoon. I got it at 5 o'clock. I have a very difficult time reading and digesting something at 5 o'clock when I have to be here at 6 o'clock. I don't know why it got to me so late, but I can either vote no or we can move to table it till next time. It's up to the board.
My understanding is that this is something that we already had. It was like a piece of paper that wasn't put in the process, that was just in one of the offices showing that we had handicap parking, where we want to make sure that we're not held liable for having handicap parking, and in the past, it wasn't put into ordinance the correct way. Is that accurate? So we're kind of protecting ourselves again?
I think it was two.
It had something to do with streets that are handicap parking and not.
Process-wise, because there seems to be a question about what's before the committee today is the introduction of ordinance. That can be done under law by merely the title. The ordinance does not have to be written. Notice of the ordinance is to be provided to the public 10 days prior to the public hearing, and the public hearing on this ordinance as well as ordinance 1-2023 and 3-2023 will take place at the next committee meeting. That's the time for a public debate and discussion regarding the substance of the ordinance. So today is really the opportunity to just introduce the ordinance prior to it being adopted on first reading is a draft document, which is considered under the law to be advisory, contemplated, deliberative, and it's not a public record.
I still don't like getting it at 5 o'clock, an hour before the meeting.
Do we have a motion?
We had a motion, I believe.
We have a second. We did that?
Yep.
Roll call.
Barkley.
Abstain?
Carr.
Yes.
Longo. Yes. Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 401.
An ordinance of the Township of West Hampton amending Chapter 203 entitled Solicitors and Canvassers. This is the first reading. Motion and second are required. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion for 3-2023, an ordinance of West Hampton Township, Chapter 203 amendment.
Second.
Discussion?
We got this Monday night. I would like to get it with the other things so I have time to really look at it and read it and think about it, please.
Motion? Not motion. Roll call?
Barkley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Longo. Yes. Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Resolution 43-23, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through March 7, 2023. Do we have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Barkley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Longo. Yes. Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consent agenda resolution. Resolution note. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any items requiring expenditures are supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda.
I'd like to remove 4523, please.
What happened?
4523, please.
What about it?
I'd like to remove it for discussion.
Okay. So should we discuss it right now, or should we motion second, approve, and then discuss that second?
There should be a vote and first and second on 44-23. First and then, vote on 45.
Perfect. Do we have a motion for 44-23? You said 44 or 45, right?
Yes.
44.
For what? 45?
She wants to remove 45.
Right. 45-23, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Wait, you asked to vote.
You asked to remove 44.
Let's just vote.
I asked to remove 4523.
Let's just vote on 44.
So we vote on 44.
Correct. We have a motion to vote on 44. Resolution appointing full-time.
Okay. So move, right, on 44-23?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Barkley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Longo. Yes. Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
45-23, resolution approving purchase of construction vehicle. Have a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I'm against this, and I believe I talked about it during the budget. This is for two vehicles, Ford Edge for $36,000 each, one for the construction office who needs it, because then that vehicle at the construction office will go to the recreation department who does not have any way of picking up things for the concession stand. The other, which we have never, ever had before, is for our inspector or inspectors. They've always used their own car. They're not full-time. It's $36,000 that we've never used before. It's a luxury. It's not like a police car or a fire engine or an ambulance or anything like that. It is a nice little thing to give someone who does inspections on our homes. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's $36,000. I think that we have things in our budget that we could use in that place for the federal grant that would then come out of our budget and lower our taxes. It's a Ford Edge. It's a small car. I don't see why it really is needed for construction or that type of thing. It gets 21 miles per gallon, and it's much more expensive. And I believe we're paying $350 for a driver's seat that goes 9 different ways. I think that should be one car, not two, please. Thank you.
So I have a discussion. So one of the things that we talked about in our budget was that our insurance went up, 44%? And
So we're liable when that construction person drives their own car versus when we have a vehicle that we're sending them out in, we're not as liable. If something happens to their car, we gotta pay for it, we gotta take care of it. If something happens to them in that car, it's going to be personal, right? So I think that this is a way for us to kind of buffer that. And I think that also in the budget, we looked at is $37,000 against $1.3 million or $1.4 million. So I don't know that adjusted enough when we're talking about an insurance that went up close to 44%. Obviously, it's something that the residents pay. I'm just looking for a way for us to kind of leverage that so we're not continuously going up year after year and continuously paying for that. So, yes.
I also want to add that the hand-me-down card that we're giving to the rec department has about 100,000 miles on it now.
So, and the rec department is getting a used vehicle, they're not getting a new.
Right.
So with that said, do we have roll call?
I have a question for you. I believe the 44%.
That's not a question, but I'll try my best.
Then for the administrator, I believe that's the JIF insurance, right, that went up? And when I asked you, you said it was because we had used that insurance last year, and when you used that insurance last year and put in for them paying things, that's why our premiums go up, correct?
That is correct.
So I believe that had nothing to do with whose car, what car. It had to do that we had put in for insurance coverage for last year, and that's why our insurance went up 44% or 42%.
Many accidents that happen on township property.
Right.
Right.
So what we don't want, and just a part of the discussion, what we don't want is we want to make sure that we plan for the future. We don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive in things, right? Like obviously we did well, and I'll give Wendy kudos. She did well in preparing the budget. That we have a slight tax increase, where just 2 years ago we didn't know how we could buy anything. So we've made some differences, but now that we have an opportunity to be able to have a little wiggle room, we want to make sure we're being proactive and protect ourselves. So with that being said, we have roll call.
Berkeley?
No.
Carr?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1-0.
We now open meeting for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address. Reminder, this is for comment only. It is not intended as a question and answer period. If you would like to respond, please leave your contact information on the podium so that we can respond.
Mayor, if I may speak into the microphone here. If everybody could please state your name and your address when you start your comments, and it will be limited to 3 minutes. I will ask you to wrap up when it's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrence Brown, 9 Pine Tree Drive. Mr. Lister, I would like for your volume to be the same as mine so people can hear you in here, because it's quite hard to hear you guys. You're an administrator. I have a couple of questions and comments. The first one is, Mr. Mayor, I would like for you to kind of check those statements you're talking about the insurance being responsible, because, me being in that industry for a while, that's not quite how it works when you're driving your personal vehicle. You ask your personal insurance, you have to, you're saying you're using it for work. There's statements and different protocols for that. So just to kind of make sure you're saving yourself some money in that standpoint. And also, look at the fact that acquiring new vehicles puts a new burden. You got to carry insurance on that vehicle and all of that type of things, and that comes with maintenance and stuff sitting on the property. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, Committee, about is maybe you guys can talk and discuss and look at possibly giving like an access easement for Timbuktu. It seems that there's, a lot going on with that.
Sorry, access what?
Like an access type easement, so they can access the cemetery and things like that. They don't have to go through all of the, the protocols that they're going through now. It seems like it's kind of frustrating that they have to kind of, be going through putting different type of, registrations or, giving advance notice of being able to access the property, use it for events. And maybe it's just me not knowing the role And maybe you can explain to me the role of Timbuktu and the cemetery and how the township, plays a part in that part of history. That would be one of my questions. Also, to maybe look at helping with the debt of the township is to look at maybe a vacants tax for buildings. If not vacant tax, maybe a registration. I looked at the code, and it seems that the last time the fees were amended was back in November the 21st of 2016. That was the ordinance chapter 182. When I looked at it, I think that, with the growing of more warehouses and the current warehouses that are vacant, maybe we can help offset some of the township debt and increasing those fees. Maybe it's a per square foot fees for those buildings. Currently, I've seen the initial registration was $250, first renewal $500, second renewal $750, sequential $1,000. That's nothing for some of these big warehouses. And I think that, some of them sitting vacant for odd number of years, township could benefit, from that eyesore. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I think that'll be all. Thank you so much.
Initials in on there, are you?
I want my questions answered.
On the paper.
Because the solicitor doesn't even answer them.
Terrence was here.
Be nice.
Good evening again, Roger Oslowski, 27 Doral Drive. So, just for my clarification, we have we're going to buy a construction vehicle for part-time employees to use, a Ford Edge, which I don't understand a purpose of a Ford Edge SUV for a construction vehicle. But however, we're going to take an equally old vehicle and give it to a full-time employee to purchase items for a township-owned property. I think it should be the other way. I think we should be buying the recreation department the vehicle and allowing the part-time employee to continue using their vehicle. We are buying a part-time employee a vehicle that we are going to now be responsible for maintenance, full insurance, and gasoline, which apparently we're not doing now with that part-time employee. And we have a full-time employee who's running property that makes us money. I think it makes us money, or at least generates business to our town. They have a vehicle that the administrator said was on its last leg, and we're going to give them another vehicle that I'm not sure if it was 100,000 miles or almost 200,000 miles. So I think they're going to have a problem with that vehicle being maintenance as they use it extensively for their position. I think it should be the other way around. I think Resolution 4523 should allow the Recreation Department the new vehicle. A Ford Edge would be more appropriate for their use, purchasing merchandise product for sale at the facilities. Thank you.
Quick.
Gary Barbera, 138 Winstead. I don't know if you had a chance to see today's Wall Street Journal, but I've got a copy here for you. It was interesting to me that at the very bottom here on the front page it says, quote, "The Big Leplowski, citizen wags are naming municipal equipment." I'll let the article kind of speak for itself, but I'll just quote it here briefly. "For government, it's a fun, cheap way to boost public appreciation, and in the case of storm drains, spur residents to help clear out debris, even if officials have to sweep away some names suggested that they find objectionable." I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of things that you could do with this, and so I'm just going to hand this over to the clerk, and you can kind of take a look at it. So I read the Inquirer article that was published on the 27th, and so I had a couple of questions or some comments about Timbuktu. I went back and I looked at the actual minutes from the Timbuktu Advisory Committee. They're supposed to meet quarterly, so that's 4 times a year, but the website only has 2 quarterly meeting minutes posted. Is that just a website thing, do you know?
We just have received them from their committee.
Okay. And so okay. So just briefly on that, so the only thing that I want to comment on TAC is from their August 2nd, 2022 meeting. is some suggestion around seeking funds for a reenactor. Does that make sense, Sandy? Do you remember that? You're quoted in here.
For a reenactor?
Yeah, for some events at Timbuktu.
What does it say? What's the full quote?
They usually have Civil War reenactors on Timbuktu Day.
Right. It says here, we discussed, this is the committee that had this quote. We discussed the cost of fees and charged by reenactors during site tours. They average $250 to $275 performance. Carolyn, which I'm assuming is Carolyn Chang, has discussed this expense with the mayor and administrator and asked for township support.
There's probably something that they were having.
It says, so there's going to be some follow-up supposedly they were supposed to do, some folks from the committee. I don't know if they've done that or not. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because I went to the county commissioners meeting that was on the 22nd. They passed a resolution. It's J26, and it says authorization to award subgrants and execute subgrants agreements with, quote, 12 organizations for history projects to be undertaken with funds. Unfortunately, it's just the first reading of that ordinance, so I don't know which 12 organizations there were. So maybe we can find out and see if we can seek some funding for that for Timbuktu. But nice picture of Mrs. Weston and Guy Weston from this article. I don't know if you have it. You might want to share that with them. And the last thing I'll say, I was really proud to see our officer get sworn in tonight, so congratulations to the police department. I want to say this. I think tomorrow's going to be a hard day for your department. Right? Every time when I come past here, we drive past Sean Cullen Way. Tomorrow will be 7 years since he was killed in action. I don't know what it's like to lose a loved one like that. I did my best. I picked out a card. I wish I knew the words to say, but it's been 7 years, and I think his family, his loved ones would love to hear from us in the township that he's not forgotten. So, I signed it, but anyone here?
Bring him up here.
And Linda, Steve, Bergie, can you get this to the Cullen family? Okay, I'll leave it, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you again. Chrissy Eckert, 120 Main Street. I wanted to talk real quick about my vision on the part-time employee's car. I believe that it is not lawful to have an employee, part-time or full-time, when they're utilizing their car as going around inspecting homes or whatever. And the insurance, you have to let the insurance company know what you're doing with your vehicle, if you're using it for a side business, et cetera. But taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, finding out maybe where the justification, where the extra insurance would come onto that person would have to pay. Instead of having another vehicle for the part-time person, you've got maintenance on that vehicle, you have gas on that vehicle, you're going to pay a per diem, I understand that. Also, the insurance is going to cut down a lot. I really think we need to take a step back and take a bigger look at that. I would appreciate it. Thank you again.
Lori Eustace, 14 Canobie Drive. I just have one thing to say. This is a good turnout tonight. Keep it up, people. I know I don't come all the time, but I'm going to start coming. Keep it up, ask the questions, keep it going.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. David Guerrero, 121 Sharpless Boulevard. I'd like to this evening that you spoke about being proactive. And I know I've spoken before, probably some members of the committee. But being proactive, I see a lot of the issues that we have right now, including your issue probably earlier this evening, talking about the budget. And I'd like to offer up the suggestion for the township, and I think it's long overdue, for their consideration to start a economic development advisory committee for the township. Many people in this town probably see that we have a lot of different retail areas in this town that aren't being utilized anymore. Businesses have left, And we have gotten businesses over the last 5 to 10 years, but I think we can probably do better. And also the consideration of this committee also looking at the possibility of warehouses in the future also just brings to the fact that money is always a consideration. We're always looking to find ways that we can bring money into this township. And I don't think ideas from just one or maybe even two people are necessarily the way to go. This is why I'm bringing up the idea of a committee, to get a group of people that are smart enough and can brainstorm and bring some ideas to this township to bring businesses back into West Hampton. I know I always hear comments from residents over here, it's like, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? Why don't we have good restaurants? Why don't we have this? And it takes effort. It takes people to go out and think about these things, where they can go, how we can approach different businesses in our community, whether it's, the big corporations or even some mom and pop stuff that are looking for new areas to expand their businesses. So again, I think looking into the possibility for that committee, which I know other townships next to us do, and they're very successful, like Florence and especially Mount Laurel. Again, I think it's an idea that's one overdue, and I would ask the committee to look into those ideas. Thank you.
Eileen Kariskin for Oak Tree Court. This is a quickie. I live in the area of Irick Woods, and what I've been noticing with the traffic through there, we've got 2 streets in that area that are cut off for people trying to avoid traffic lights, and I would like you guys to take a look at that. Maybe we need some speed bumps, especially the Maple Tree Drive between Wood Lane and Rancocas Road. When the kids get out of school there, I've caught many of them racing down that road, and we have, little kids and all that kind of stuff there. I think it's dangerous. That's one spot. The other spot of concern to me is Forest View. Forest View, for those that are not familiar with it, goes on to Irick and Rancocas Road. And what's happening there, the way that road is done, there's like a Y that you can't see with all the bushes and stuff. And I have to tell you, I've had 2 near misses with people running the light, there's not a light, a stop sign. And I think that's another place that we may want to consider some speed bumps, just to slow them down. Thank you.
Ron Kuriskin for Oak Tree Court, West Hampton. Just to reiterate again, there's already been a dramatic increase in truck traffic along Beverly Rancocas Road, as well as Route 541, as I'm sure a lot of the residents here have already noticed. Please note that Hainesport has a new warehouse at the corner of Beverly Rancocas and Marne Highway that's being constructed. There's obviously a new Walmart distribution center off Hancock Road, and 2 new warehouses at the old Burlington Mall site that are going up. So that's going to increase the amount of truck traffic along 541. And I'm wondering if anyone here has gotten behind a trailer truck starting off after being stopped at a stoplight. I'm sure everyone here has seen that. And you know how slowly they start up. So you know that the backup, that there's going to be backups and traffic delays. And it's only going to increase if more warehousing is added in the township, which means more truck traffic. So we should consider a warehouse moratorium and specifically prohibit them in the OR1 zone, which is between Route 541 and Wood Lane Road, which is now an open farmland area. Increases in traffic through the local residential neighborhoods occur, and people are trying to circumvent these traffic delays, as someone had just said. And we also may want to consider tax increases on the existing warehouses, more in line to the total acreage versus other assessments on residential and commercial properties in the township. I know there was a woman who spoke in the last meeting comparing the amount of assessments, taxes that were paid by warehouses versus the square footage or acreage that was there. And I believe she compared it to the amount of taxes that were collected in the Deerfield area. And if I remember correctly, it was something like $350,000 for the warehousing versus $4 million on the residential properties. It doesn't seem like they're paying their fair share. So I think maybe we may want to look at the possible tax increases on these warehousing properties. Thank you.
Hello, Amber Pinjatore, 71 Sherwood Lane. So I just wanted to speak to support of the vote that just happened for the approving of the construction vehicles, although I do agree with Roger's assessment that it seems a little convoluted that the part-time employee is getting the new vehicle and the full-time employee is getting the older 100,000 plus mile vehicle. But just needing a new vehicle, I agree with what the mayor said. There is a process called subrogation. So if that individual part-time employee gets in an accident with their private car, yes, their private insurance will pay for it, but their private insurance is then going to go ahead and pursue the West Hampton's insurance for reimbursement of those funds, and that's what subrogation is. So in our heads, we think, oh, you know, our personal insurance pays for it, but it doesn't stop there. So I agree that there is a risk and a liability to the township, so I appreciate the proactive effort. However, I am concerned that it is not the greenest vehicle, so maybe any future vehicles the township considers purchasing should have better ratings and better mile per gallon. Thank you.
Almost.
I know, I'm glitched out of here, I'm sorry. My name is Rebecca Eller, and I live at 11 Devonshire Drive. I reached out to your committee some months ago via email immediately over an issue with the crosswalk exiting the Holly Hills School. At that time, my 5-year-old daughter was nearly struck by a car. My issue at the time, with anybody who may have remembered it, and in the pictures that I sent you, you could see that that crosswalk was barely visible as a crosswalk. And I had appealed in the past to have it updated. It has been updated quite considerably. The painting of lines in the road, now having crosswalk signs on both sides of the street, visible from both directions, and the reflectors on the post is a huge help. And I appreciate, at the time, Ms. Gibson, Ms. Berkeley, and Mr. Carr got back to me immediately. The reason I'm standing up here today is people still peel down the road and ignore the crosswalk. And I know that extra signage is expensive, but to me, my children's lives are invaluable, and we walk to school as often as possible, trying to avoid the traffic, trying to be one less car in the lineup. It's easier, it's enjoyable, it gets us out and moving. I know that lighted signage is probably entirely too cost prohibitive, but I would appeal to maybe consider a weighted sign in the road, the kind that reminds people that it's their obligation to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. 90% of people are wonderful, and it's the few that completely ignore me standing there with my children that astound me over and over. So I'd ask you to consider that. It's a small investment. I'm not the only person that comes from that side. I know we don't need a crossing guard there with the smaller population that uses Lancaster Drive, but for those of us that do, it is still very much a safety issue. And there's challenges to the road curving coming in from Rancocas. People may not always see the crosswalk right away, but I think an extra sign would be a great reminder that there's kids there at a certain time of day, and just had too many scary encounters. So I'd ask you to consider that investment in something a little bit better for the kids at school. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to address one of the comments made during the last meeting. There was a comment made at the last meeting that the clerk had made a mistake and that there were potentially other mistakes made during the course of business. My career profession does not lie in being a municipal clerk. I am an administrator. However, I have done everything in my power to make sure the job is getting done to the best of my abilities while performing other job duties.
Can you do me a favor? Can you speak up so they can hear you?
While performing other job duties, training the new staff members, taking the clerk's classes, and learning and growing every day. I would like to state that I do not claim to be infallible. Everyone makes mistakes. However, I believe it's all in how you recover from them. Members of the committee and residents have made suggestions and requests, and I have listened.
Together, we have made many changes to the agenda and implemented various processes and procedures to make West Hampton Township stronger and better. And that is what we will continue to do. If we make a mistake along the way, we are only as good as how we recover from that mistake. Second, the ordinance copies. What we are being taught in the classes is that ordinances are generally not disseminated for public viewing until after they have been introduced to the committee. This is done at the introduction or first reading, and the ordinance is read by title. As the document is disseminated to the committee first, it is during this time that the committee has an opportunity to make any requested changes before it becomes a public document. The contents of an ordinance are considered to be contemplative and deliberative until the committee has had a chance to review. Once the committee has reviewed the information, it can be disseminated to the general public for review. These first few ordinances to be introduced this year make it a perfect time to establish a proper procedure going forward. With the zoning ordinance, we recognize the sensitivity of the content and therefore provided the working document to the public before the meeting. I will reiterate, this is a procedure being taught in our classes, and I'm attempting to establish the proper procedures for a township committee meeting going forward. Two other updates, just a quick update on the Spring Meadows Playground. We're going to be breaking ground soon. We're just waiting for spring to hit and the temperatures to be stably warm so that we don't encounter any frozen ground in the meantime. Also, as it was stated earlier, we did receive a $33,000 American Rescue Plan firefighter grant, which should be coming to us soon. I will ask that you relay all the questions to Chief Farnsworth, as he was unable to be here tonight. I also want to clarify that the cars that are being used, I have no issue with wanting to switch around the order of those vehicles. If you would like to dedicate one of the newer vehicles to rec instead, that's fine. But there are two other part-time employees who will be utilizing that vehicle for construction purposes. Thank you.
So, there's more than one person using the newer vehicle. I think it's something we can just, no, it's not. Or is it? Dates to remember. Next committee meeting is March 21st at 7 p.m. Land Development Board meeting is April 5th at 7 p.m. Historic Commission, March 22nd at 7 p.m. Recreation Committee meeting, March 8th at 7 p.m. Don't forget the Easter egg hunt, April 1st, with a rain date of April the 8th, starting at 9 a.m. Committee liaison/comments.
Mayor, I respectfully disagree with our administrator. I think we've all been to college or high school classes, and the teacher has their own way of looking at things of what they want to do. But I have looked up the law, and I shared it with our administrator. It doesn't say ordinances should be. It says ordinances may be introduced by title, or they may be given the whole ordinance in the beginning in the packet. I've also talked to other administrators, other people who are in government, because I've been around here for 70 years and I know many of them. And they all said, yes, if you do it just by title, you're allowed to do it by title, but it's not the best thing for the committee. So I disagree respectfully. She is the person that we hired to run the township, but I would like to know what the people on our committee made, and so that I would like a motion that I move that all ordinances that are to come before the township committee to be included in the full public and township packet by the close of the Friday, before the Friday workday. That's up to you. I believe it's not required that we just have the title. I think we keep talking about transparency. Now we don't have the minutes there for them to see. The minutes now are sometimes a month or 6 weeks late, so no one remembers what happens. And now you're not given an opportunity to see what's in the ordinance until we pass it. I think people have run on transparency. I think we need to have more transparency, and we need to respect the public. So, if you don't want it, don't make a second. If you would like to see this happen for transparency. I made the motions, Mayor. I made the motion.
This is for public, this is the section for public comment.
Public comment's done. We closed public comment.
I'm sorry, for committee comments, not for business. The business portion of the meeting has already been completed.
So you're telling me I'm not allowed to make a motion?
The business portion is completed.
I'm asking the attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yes, my understanding is that this is the business portion of the meeting has been concluded. So if you'd like to make a motion during resolutions at the next meeting, that can be done. Yeah.
Okay, I just want the public to know that next meeting I will make this motion. Today, we also attended a retirement for Sue, I can never say her last name, Graudout. She is retiring from our as the head clerk, not head clerk, what do we call her? The head person of our court? What? It was wonderful. There was past judges, police, people from the sheriff's office, East Hampton, and many of our employees. She has been in the court office for 14 years and done an excellent job. I am on the school and the senior committee. The school, the essay should to be read soon for Black History Month. I was very honored to be able to read to a kindergarten class for Black History Month, and I was so excited. It was so nice to be back in there, and the kids were great. Seniors, we are planning a Munch and Music festival before the Fall Festival, so you will get some information about that. Your kind of music and your kind of munchies. I'm going to, again, for the 5th time, request that we have a workshop meeting to discuss issues and make goals and priorities for our town. Thank you.
Well,
We have our rec meeting tomorrow. I know that we are finishing up last minute stuff for the Easter egg hunt to take place. We hope that we have a turnout there. I want to thank all the residents for coming out to the meetings. Your voice does matter, so please, yes, continue coming. I also want to congratulate Officer Sweeney for being sworn in tonight, and I thank the departments again, and Wendy, your hard work for our township. I do think that you're doing everything you can to make our town run efficiently, so thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We really appreciate your participation in the process, your comments, your point of views on everything. I sincerely appreciate it. I'd like to reiterate to the committee about writing a letter to the county about the policies and practice and the needs of the community for restrictions on truck traffic as called for in the appendix to the master plan. So that could be introduced at the next meeting, that resolution. Also, I look forward to continuing our review on the master plan. We have a lot of things to look forward to as far as development and the next round of affordable housing. So I look forward to being able to accomplish that this year as well. Congratulations to Officer Sweeney. He has a great set of leadership over there in the corner to guide him on his career. And while we're on public safety, Chris, could we look into the cost for one of those weighted signs as was suggested? And if the trailer is not occupied on Holly Lane or wherever else, if we could get it over, that'd be swell. So, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the residents for coming out. This is the first meeting that I've attended where I've seen this many people, and so I just wanted to let you know that your voice does matter. And also, congratulations to Officer Sweeney for being sworn in today. And I do want to piggyback off of what Jamie said. Wendy, your efforts, I haven't been in this role that long, but your efforts and everything that I've seen thus far, it makes a difference, and you've been very helpful, and you've been very informative, and I appreciate it.
Yes, last but not least. So we talked a lot about the virtual land. We don't own the virtual land, so we'd have to buy it from them in order to stop them from doing anything that's owned on their land. I think they bought it for $10 million. I don't know what the asking price is, but I mean, depending on what you guys want to do as a community, let us know. We'll do what we can, but keep in mind, keep it, as open space. That's going to be something that's going to be up to them unless we own the land, right? And I would assume they're going to build on it at some point. And what they build on it, I mean, we don't know, right? It has to be zoned a certain way. It has to be that way. I would say this: by no means am I condoning warehouses. I'm not Dave Guerrero brought up a good point. So a lot of times I just really look at numbers and things, right? But I'll still have communication. Like, I'm in. If you guys don't want to do it, I'm in. But what you got to keep in mind is this, and it's just something for us to think about going forward, right? And something that we can use some feedback on how we can do things better going forward. If you've ever been to the firehouse, you're going to need a firehouse. Not tomorrow, but soon. The firehouse is probably going to cost you about $10 million, right? As a residency, it's going to cost about $10 million. This is me talking to Craig. I asked Craig what he looked like, what it's going to cost. We're also, because we're building across town, right? We're going to need a fire presence across town. It's probably going to be about $2 million, $2 to $3 million is what Craig said. And then you're going to have to put things in that firehouse. The fire, the engine, ambulance, employees, etc. So if it's approximately $15 million, the latest number is there's about 3,245 households in West Hampton. Divided. There's some things that we can do. Hopefully some things that will happen that will create a buffer for that. But that's just the numbers. There's no magic wand. It is what it is. If you want to go to the fire department and take a look, and they will tell you that that's what we're going to need. But also realize that that's just one branch of what makes our township. That's just the fire department. Obviously, with more houses, you'll need more police. They need more police cars. They'll need more public works. These are things that we're looking at down the future. So listen, forgive me if I look at it and I'm like, well, I'm not focused on a $37,000 construction vehicle. I'm focused on how we can keep the people that currently make up this town in their homes. Because if you're looking at a certain increase in taxes, I can guarantee you that there's going to be people who aren't going to be able to pay. Now, there's other ways that's going to happen with that, right? Like either you have foreclosures, and I don't mean to be the guy with the bad. I'm just giving you an idea. You have foreclosures, or you have people who move away, and then you kind of lose some of the essence of the town. So a lot of the ideas that I'm looking at, or a lot of things that I'm talking about, is really just about trying to keep the essence of the town and find a way that we can buffer some of those costs to protect our residents in the long run. So again, I'll say it, I'm not a warehouse guy. I mean, I got a warehouse behind my development, but I'm not a warehouse guy. I'm just trying to find a way that we don't affect our schools, we don't affect, we're able to leverage where we can get other kind of construction out of it. I'm looking at just a bunch of different opportunities for us. And again, I'm easily approachable. I think anybody will say that. Whether you agree with me or don't agree with me, just the way this government is, it's not made for us to all agree at all times, right? Like, if you look at the makeup of this committee, you don't have a more diverse committee. Nancy has no kids. I think that you told me that you were gifted your house from your family, right?
No.
No?
No.
You paid for it?
Yeah.
I've been paid for it, right?
Wasn't worth much when I got it.
Janelle, single mother. Me. I have 2 kids, one in college, one in high school. Jamie, 2 kids in college. Amy. Well, one young kid and a stepdaughter in high school. So you don't get any more diversity than what's up here. And so a lot of times, if there is a push and pull, it can be about that, right? Like different people bring different ideas, and that's kind of what we want in a representation of the town and all. So that's just me touching upon that. Timbuktu, let's talk about that. Because somebody said they wanted to bring the NAACP, so let's address that. Timbuktu, Guy Weston owns the cemetery. He was gifted the cemetery, or however we got it, bought it from the cemetery from a church. The land around the cemetery is owned by the township. We have a Timbuktu committee. The Timbuktu committee deals on that land above. They can't go on Guy's land, right? But they hold their events on the land that township owns. When he holds events, he can't hold events on the cemeteries, on the grave sites. So he holds events on the land the township owns. What he's supposed to do is have a conversation with the chair of the committee to make sure that they both don't have events at the same time. And that's really what it's all about. Just so that they don't have events at the same time. I mean, it's pretty simple. And Guy resigned from his chair. He wasn't influenced to resign. He resigned himself because he wanted to start his own committee. Carolyn Chang is the head of that committee. Obviously, since Guy was in chair of the committee for a while, I spoke to Guy before appointing Carolyn to ask him if he thought it was appropriate and he thought it was the right way to go. He agreed. So all these things that are happening is just because Guy and Carolyn are talking to each other or they're not communicating, right? But the wheels are set in motion, but we own the land. And if I'm not mistaken, we also, for the last year, have cut the grass. I mean, up until now, because Guy just talked about it, that we don't have to cut it anymore, but we cut the grass at the cemetery for him. So I think we've been pretty responsible neighbors in what we do. I don't know what that means. Oh, the truck is the car we're buying is bought with federal money. So it doesn't necessarily influence the budget. I understand what Nancy's saying, well, if you didn't pay the 37, then you can put that against something else. I mean, I understand it. That doesn't mean I agree with it, but I understand what she's saying. But the cars were bought with federal money. The Edge, I don't even know the last time. So I think that if we bought an Edge, it's because it was the cheapest car to buy. I don't even see Edges on the road anymore. So I think that it was just really about the cost of it. It wasn't, necessarily we were buying it. If we wanted to spend money, we would have bought an Explorer, right? But the Edge is smaller, less expensive, and I think there's two ways to look at it too. Like you can give it to Todd, and Todd's going to utilize the Edge more. If you give it to the other person, I don't know if they utilize it as much, but I'm sure all new cars have some type of warranty, and the mileage is a part of that. So, to me, who we give the car to is who's going to use it the least, so that we have the warranty that lasts the longest. And Todd's been driving that van for the last few years. Whatever car he gets, I just talked to him today, he's going to be happy. Dave Guerrero, Dave brought up a great point, and I've been in conversation with Dave. So, Dave, you sent me the site about Mount Laurel doing that, and I've already sent it to our attorney and to try to see what we could do. So Dave had an idea about forming a committee that he just put up, and the committee's going to help bring businesses to town. This is something that we talked about, and something that he was able to discuss with me. So that's something that we are looking to do to move forward. So again, to help put us in position to where we can have, some of the things around here that you guys want. But keep in mind this, we have a lot of people turning out here today, so I want you all to hear this. When's the last time you've been in recovery? Not recovery like needing help. Recovery, the sports bar, right? You know why I said that? Because every time I say that, somebody's like, I'm in recovery. But no, the recovery, huh? Right, but you understand what I'm saying? I've been in recovery a few times, there's nobody there. You want businesses to come in town, support the businesses that are already open, right? And then the word of mouth gets around and people come. But people aren't going to come when you got the one restaurant that's shut down, and Charlie Brown that's shut down, and the grass looks horrendous, and now you got another one coming over there. So let's support that restaurant. Let's support it. Let's make time with our families to go out, sit down, have dinner, etc. And do the same thing with recovery. I'm not going to discuss that, but speed bumps. We looked at speed bumps in the village, and so I think that the young lady spoke about the speed bumps in Irish Woods. One of the things that they were saying is that the speed bumps, when people go over them, they create noise. So that means all night long you kind of hear those speed bumps all night long. So typically what happens, although it's not a county road, the county engineer told me that a lot of times we put speed bumps in, and then people are like, take the speed bumps out. So then they charge you for putting them in and taking them out, because that's how sure they are that eventually you're gonna want them out. So, and it's snow plows, fire engines, et cetera. So what I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be addressed. I'm saying that we gotta kind of put our heads together and find the proper way to address it, to make it feasible for everyone, and so that you guys don't regret it.
Consider speed ramp.
A speed ramp?
It's much more gradual slope, just goes the cars down, speed hump. It's not a speed hump, it's a speed ramp.
We can take a look at that. I mean, again, like, we listen to you guys, so, you know, I think that that's, you know, appropriate to look at, and we'll make notes of that. Last but certainly not least, the clerk. I mean, I've been to college too, so, but I've never addressed the clerk position. If I was gonna be a clerk today, I would have to take classes and certifications. Understand this, the last clerk we had, we were blessed that clerk was here for a very long time. But now we're looking at putting a new clerk in position, and the clerks are taking classes, right? And those classes have them addressing different things. Now, if you had someone here that was 30 years ago, then I'm sure things change within 30 years. I know I'm not the same as I was 30 years ago. So, you know, be patient with us, but we're making appropriate changes to make sure that we're compliant as a municipality. Now, obviously, we talked about, you know, things that are on the radar to make sure that we're continue to be super transparent, to let the community know. And at the end of the day, you guys are fortunate because you have Nancy. She's going to let you know anyway. So, that's all that I have. I appreciate you guys coming out. I appreciate seeing all the residents. I actually do. You know, it makes me feel motivated to be able to engage with you guys. Our department heads, Bob, Sam, and I will follow up and say this. When Wendy first came here, and I think that you can agree with me, we interviewed a bunch of administrators. And unfortunately or fortunately, that was the second set of interviews that we had to do within 2 years. So we had another administrator that came here. Obviously, you guys are used to Donna. She's here for a long time, then Maria. But then back to back, we had one administrator come, he went back to his old job, and then we interviewed administrators, and she was the best one, right? But there were things that she had to learn as well. Like, I don't know that she's ever done a budget before that. And now this is her third budget, and she's done a fantastic job. So and I don't know if you guys heard her, along with taking clerk classes, along with being the standing clerk right now, along with being the administrator of the town, she's also completing the budget, which, if you want to talk about other townships, they have their CFO completing the budget. West Hampton, we don't have that. We have our administrator completing the budget. So, one, I want to thank her for her presentation. Thank her for being a leader. Is everything perfect? No. But listen, at my job, everything's not perfect either. I don't know about where y'all are, but everything's not perfect, and you're going to work through some things. And that's why you call it work and not fun. And that's all I have. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
No.
No?
Executive session.
Oh, I wouldn't talk so long if I knew we had it. Motion to go to executive session.
Second.
You have to read the resolution.
I don't know. Resolution number 3723. Resolution authorizing the Township Committee and support staff to meet in private session, authorizing exclusion of the public from a portion of the meeting dealing with specific issues requiring non-public discussions, attorney-client privilege, personnel, and pending litigation. Docket. Borough L00164022. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Longo. Yeah.
Right. Sandy?
Mayor.
I can't do that, though. She told me I was not allowed to.
Stay here, we go.
Don't do it.
Well,